Stock market antics are back in play around a brand that you know and I know, and that's Beyond Meat. My name is Paul Barron. This is the Barron Report. We're going to dive into Beyond Meat today. It appears that we have some more volatile action happening, and this is kind of a review of a video I did back in March, and I want to kind of set the stage for this to give you guys a little bit of understanding of maybe where this stock is moving and also where this company is going. Back in March, I did a quick review of where Beyond Meat was going to be, where I felt like they would be going in terms of what their current status was, all those kinds of scenarios and lineups about moving this stock to the next level and the company. And part of this was pre-Q1 earnings. And we're going to go into Q1 earnings and kind of where that's going and where I think Q2 and Q3 earnings will happen and why it's important if you are an investor on Beyond Meat. As a reminder, this is not investment advice. As always, we do a lot of research here. We dive into a lot of sentiment data, a lot of layered news, and come together with our own opinion. Before you do any kind of investment, do your own research, get your own ideas moving, and you guys make that decision. Hopefully, we're just an education and entertainment opportunity for you and source. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, though. Just click the bell right there and hit subscribe. If you're watching this on mobile, flip it over, hit subscribe, you're good to go. I want to jump to just a news story that was done back in March. And this news story was Beyond Meat stock is rising because one analyst says the rally will continue. This was one of the points that, and this was their $190 price target. This one was one of the areas that I was disagreeing with because even though I was in that video was giving a good recommendation for Beyond, the idea was that it was going to take the Q1 data to come in and some key things to happen for Beyond Meat to be able to go to its next level. It did exactly what I had predicted it would do, and that was it would fall first and give a buying opportunity to those who could trap it around $100, which it did. And that's kind of where we are now. But I just wanted to kind of give you an idea. The other Barron's, which is Barron's the Financial, had it rallying where I had it on a little bit of a downturn. And here's a slide here to kind of explain where the trends were moving at that time. These were March trends of Q20, Q2 20, Q3 20, Q4, and then Q1. Now we're moving into Q2 21. And as you can kind of see, the grocery, takeout and dine out. Takeout and dine out were the two key factors here that were seeing, consistent and continued growth, which is one of the key reasons that I believe Beyond is going to be in a position to really do well over the time. Now, there is some volatility going on with the stock right now. A lot of this, if you watch Jim Cramer, he was kind of pointing to this as more of the GME phenomenon, the Reddit communities and the WallStreetBets communities kind of getting action moving on Beyond Meat. I don't necessarily think I think there's probably some of that happening, but I don't necessarily think it's probably the reason that at least the acceleration has occurred. But I do believe there are some actual fundamentals here, and we're going to break those down. I want to move on also to where they were in terms of their price point back in March. And this was at $139. And again, what I was looking at is two things. These were different points in their, kind of in their rise, which was the McDonald's, Plant Burger, and then of course Yum's news, all connecting to them. And then the McD details came out of them essentially moving on to their own product. Then you had Tyson Foods, who is the orange line down below that was trending up. And if you listen to that video, you probably were in a position where you could have got Tyson Foods at the right point and watched Tyson rise over the past couple of months because it had done the same thing that I had predicted, which is as the restaurant industry starts to recover, units start to open, the traditional food supply chain was going to come back into play. And that's exactly what happened with Tyson Foods, having a great performance over the last 2 months. Also want to look back at the income statement for Beyond Meat because this was their Q4 income statement. As you can kind of see, their $406 million was their 12/31 numbers. Year over year at 36% on growth. This ended up being right in line with what we had predicted in terms of the total unit volume or total sales volume. And the cool thing is that when you look at where these quarters are moving, there's some very interesting trends starting to occur for Beyond Meat. And I want to break that down here in a second. But before I do that, I want to run over here to the fundamental analysis that we did back in March. Now, this is a fundamental analysis that we put together back in March, and I'm still holding true on this in the sense of basically an 8-year plan. And this was 2020 through 2028, which we were basically looking at the 2020 numbers. This was well in the 2020 year. They ended up hitting the stock price, which was around, I believe, what we're at, the share price was around 140. We ended up, I think, around 138 or 120 at the end of 2020 as an overall price. But the point is that there's a lot of revenue opportunity here in doubling for Beyond Meat. And that's where I think they're heading, is to a doubling of the revenue, which really starts to move their market cap up to around 18, as you can see, 18 billion. That is where I still stand on the end of 2021 at seeing a stock price somewhere in the round of 275 to 288 bucks. That's where I still feel very comfortable with, mainly because I'm looking at where the performance opportunities here are. And now, of course, we have the new data for Q1, which is in. So I want to jump over to Webull real quick and show you guys a little about what I'm talking about. This, of course, is the current chart. As you can kind of see, the low point right here at right around the $100 basement of where it is. This is where I was recommending once you saw something in this close range, that was when you needed to look at and buy. And I want to just kind of move back out to March, because right here is about where we were doing the video while the stock was on a bit of a slide. Most analysts were predicting that this would go up. I was still predicting that this would go down to a potential acquisition point, which is it obviously has hit, and would take a ride up. And there's really one key factor here. One was, remember in Q1, we were still just getting back to normal operations inside restaurants. A lot of people were still, in many cases, not even going out to eat. So a lot of that had to play into it, since Beyond Meat is so tied to the food service side of things. Q2, I believe, is going to be a very powerful quarter for Beyond Meat. And Q3 is the quarter that I am predicting that Beyond Meat will break out. This Q3, unless something weird happens for Beyond Meat and they get some negative news or something terrible has happened, they lost a major partnership, Q3 could be a blast off for this particular brand and this stock. So let's kind of take a look at the financials right here. And you can kind of see, here's the year over year for Q1, which was just reported in April 3rd. This came in at 108 million, which was up 11% year over year. Great number. All right, so let's zoom in on this right here. As you can see, their total operating expenses are running at 40.46, which is up a little bit from where they were in the previous quarter, but they've continued to see a very good growth in their overall. So we can zoom back out. I want to go over to the chart. So as you can see here on the chart breakdown, the decline occurred around the end of April, 429, and it started to see its basement right here at 517, which this would have been the position to essentially go in and acquire the stock. Beyond Meat has a couple of things, though, that is happening right now. Preparation for Q2. If they continue to see their numbers climb, which I believe they will, and then really, I think what we have to be cautious of right now, if you're trading Beyond Meat at $146 is where it's currently setting right now as of time of filming, my recommendation is, at least for me, is I'm looking to exit this around $1.50 if it can make it. If it can make it to 150 before the end of the day, most likely I'm going to exit, and I'm looking for the next entry point, which is, I believe, is going to be somewhere around $125 once we get past this bump. Now, June, I think, will be a soft month for this stock unless GameStoppers decide to stay on it like a dog on a bone. If they do, then this could be one of those that continues its volatility throughout the month of June. But look for July, which is when we will see their Q2 earnings. And Q2 earnings will be at least one indicator if they are on track to do what I think they will do, and that is skyrocket this stock to $250 to $288 by end of year. here's the key thing. Q2 has to perform. GameStop the GameStoppers and Reddit community may cause some volatility of this, so be aware of that if you're involved in this stock and if you're not long term. The other thing is, if you are looking at an exit toward the end of the year, hold on for Q2. Once we see the Q2 numbers, if we see a positive signal, then I'm really bullish on this stock and this company over-indexing in Q3 and Q4, which is going to blow this up to the next hot stock in the food side. So we try to do these market movers from time to time. The main focus here is, as we look at data coming in, news, and also some of these trends that are starting to happen, hopefully we're providing you guys with some more analysis that can get your journey going on where your research is happening for where you want to put your money, whether it's an investment side or maybe it's just one of those things that you're a company that is analyzing what players that you should be working with. And maybe Beyond Meat, if you're in the plant-based side of things, is one of those that you're considering right now, and you're trying to figure out, is it Beyond Meat the player, is Impossible Foods the player, or are there others that potentially could be coming in my direction? If you're listening in over on the podcast right now, make sure and subscribe, because that's the best way we can get feedback from you. And of course, give us some stars over there. We love that. And thank you so much for your subscription on, whether it's on iTunes or Spotify. If you're following us over on Spotify, great. Thank you again. If you're here on YouTube, make sure and one, share the video, and two, subscribe right now. You've got to subscribe. Come back and see more. We cover a lot of innovative tech, including companies like Beyond Meat. They are really kind of one of the innovators from a technology standpoint of essentially reformatting our food system. It's one of the reasons we cover that here on the show and on the network. But subscribe to the channel. You're going to get great content. We do a lot of things on EV, AI, automation, cryptocurrency. It's a really good breadth of information around forward-thinking technology, and that's the goal of what we're trying to do on the YouTube channel. So make sure and try to jump in here. This is one of the shows on the network that falls over on the YouTube channel. And of course, if you want to give us an idea for a show, you can shoot us an email to just producer@reverendnetworks.com or hit me up on Twitter @PaulBaron. We'll catch you next time right here on the Baron Report.